Hello everybody, welcome to this week's music video. This week I'm going to be talking about world music. Now that sounds like it should be all music. All music after all comes from the world, but we tend to use the term world music when we're talking about music from other places apart from here in Western Europe. So it's quite common for different types of music and different instruments to be associated quite strongly with the identity of a particular country or a culture or a region. We've seen a few of these already in this series of videos. So for example, I played this bagpipe last week and I said it came from France. In fact, this bagpipe is associated really strongly with a particular region in France, the Occitan region. So this is a kind of a folk music. It is from Europe, but it's not the mainstream classical or mainstream pop music that we tend to find all over the planet. This is really specific to a local region there. I use this slightly differently. I use this for my early music. And we've also come across some of my African style instruments. This is a djembe, like I said. It was actually made in Madagascar, which is where I bought it. I was there and I bought it from a guy who was selling them on the street. And this instrument is most strongly associated with the country of Ghana, which is in West Africa. And this goes for the whole planet. So wherever you go, the likelihood is that there will be a particular kind of instrument, a particular kind of music making that is some place's way of saying this is us. I suppose it's quite hard to see what that is for yourself for England, but think next door to Scotland. Think Highland bagpipes and tartan. That's an instrument that's really closely and strongly linked to the Scottish sense of identity. So I'm going to play you a bit of an African rhythm now, using my djembe and also the shaker and the bell. And there are 2 or 3 drum patterns which I'll put down on the looper, and then I'll add the other instruments. So you've got to imagine that there's a small group of people playing this music. Interesting things about world music is the way that it travels. So although a particular kind of music and a certain group of instruments might be associated with a certain country or region, when a lot of people travel from one place to another, quite often the musical influences will move with them. So the music I was just playing you was from Africa, like I said. We can find related kinds of music in America, both North America and South America. The reason for this is quite sad. It's because of the slave trade that went on a couple of hundred years ago, where a lot of people were actually captured in Africa and transported across the Atlantic Ocean to live in the Americas as slaves. In North America you can hear African influences in jazz music and more recently in R&B and various musics that still keep some of those rhythms and flavours. And in South America, one of the biggest influences was African music turning into or having an influence on samba. Samba music is a kind of music that is associated particularly with Brazil and Rio de Janeiro, where your local samba group, your local drum team, is as much a part of your local identity as maybe your football team might be here in the UK. So people will go to their samba group and they will have meetings of 100 or more people all playing together on the drums, and they will practice and they will put together these amazing costumes, and they will go out for carnival and do the big processions that you see with the dancers and the floats and the costumes and so on. But the drumming is a big part of that, and the rhythms and the instruments in samba music are really obviously related to the instruments and rhythms that you see in Africa. That's lucky for me because I haven't got any samba music, or samba instruments rather, here in my house. So I'm going to carry on using the African instruments to give you the rhythms, and we're also going to do something called singing the samba. So this is your joining in time, and one of the ways that you can teach percussion music is to remember the rhythms through words. So we're going to use different word rhythms and build them up, just like I did with the African piece, to put together some samba music. Okay, we're going to start effectively with the bass part. There are two large drums here. Actually, the ones that are used in the samba batucada are even larger, and usually you have a separate person to play each one. And I'm going to use a third in a minute, and these are known as the surdos, and they play the basic beat. So this plays on the first beat, this plays on the second beat. Let's have a listen to that. Okay, I said this was for you to join in at home. What I'd like you to do with that is actually to start your feet going. So if you can go left, right, and just start to move a little bit, because you've got to remember this music is played walking down the street. Okay, let's add number 3. Right, next up we're going to add the shaker. I'm going to use my African shaker, and the rhythm for this, the words that go with it are actually Brazil, 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 Brazil. But in between those two notes, da-dum, 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 we want to hear an even quieter 2 notes, so it should go. If you made yourself a shaker when we did the percussion instruments, you could use that for this bit, or you can just say Brazil, 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 Brazil. Next up we're going to add the bell. This is called an agogo bell, and it has a big bell and a little bell on it. This is the African version, but there is a Brazilian version that's a bit bigger. And this one goes. And the words are, I would like a cup of tea. 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 Finally, we're going to add a little drum. This is called a tamborim, a bit like tambourine, but with an M on the end instead of N-E. And you can change the sound on this with your fingers on the back. So on the inside, my fingers will be going on the back of the skin and then letting go, and that will change the sound. So we've got and the rhythm for this is I like baked beans. To try each of those rhythms. I'll let it run a bit longer, and I'll tell you each of those lines again so you can have a go at each one and see if you can do one of the others against whatever I'm doing, so you get a bit of a practice at holding one rhythm while another one's being given to you. Okay, here we go. So big drums go. 1, 2. Get your feet going, so you're walking. And the shaker goes Brazil, 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 and the bell goes, I would like a cup of tea, 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 and the drum goes, I like baked beans, I like baked beans, I like baked beans, I like baked beans. I hope you managed to join in with some of that. See you next week.